And I'm home. Yep. This is the house that my parents built in the 1950s. It's really kind of old now from the outside. It sits on a 3,000 square meter lot, so it's pretty spacious. Just think of the great possibilities of this house someday if we fix it. Look at that wonderful building. The property beyond that wall is still ours. Yeah. I remember as a kid when it was raining, we used to play out here in the garden chasing after frogs. Yeah. And when my parents built this house, they built a pool here for my older siblings, but my older siblings never used it. So they eventually put tilapia there, and eventually just dumped soil on it and just made it part of the garden. So it's a fairly huge property. I planted these trees sometime in the late 80s. They're huge now. This is the wonderful Nara tree that my parents, so huge. So this is what the property looks like from outside. And here's another view. I remember when I was about 11 or 10 years old, there was a horse here that was brought in from the farm and grazing, and I came to try to pet it, and it started to buck and it kicked me and hit me in the knee. And it was, for a while I thought I broke my no, not in the knee, it hit me in the hips. And for a while I thought I really broke it, and I didn't want them to do anything to the horse, so I pretended when my parents saw that I was couldn't walk, I told them I climbed this Nara tree and fell off it so that they wouldn't take it out on the horse. All right, let's go in. This is kind of like our this is not the main entrance, but we can access the house through here. There's a nice, very Frenchy looking balcony. A lot of my friends in the late 80s used to have pictorials here. I remember with Luna and Lito Perez. All right, now we're entering my father's office. Let me close the door. It's really quite beautiful. A lot of antiques here and all the pictures. This is my father. And of course, it's already known in our family that we come from a line of, actually our progenitor was a friar. His real name was Gigan. The word is that he wasn't Spanish, but he was actually Dutch. And as with most friars in those days, they had children. So he gave birth to a boy, and this is the birth certificate of that boy. And for some reason he named the boy Hemora. I don't know whether that was actually the name of the woman he got pregnant, or whether it's a play on Sodom and Gomorrah. Who knows? So this is their son. Yes. Who eventually gave birth to my great-grandfather. And picture of my grandfather, but eventually these are my parents. My mom's side naman, this is my mother, comes from the illustrious Lopez family. This was their ancestral home. It was a mansion by the beach. It could oversee, it was overlooking Guimaras. Can you imagine how beautiful that was? But eventually it was sold by one of the children, and to the wrong people, and they just left it to rot. So nothing really does stay. My mother naman was a Lopez. This is my Lola, Doña Paz Lopez, whose brother was the great grandfather of Gabi Lopez. She married Laguda, who was a cabinet member in Quezon's time. He was a cabinet member there. Cabinet member. He was cabinet member of the Department of Trade and Industry.
Did you read that?
Yes. You want to? This is my brother. Say hello.
Hi.
Okay. So he's now the one who is in charge of this beautiful home. Tell us about the wood. No, when my mom and father had this done by who's the architect?
The architect was architect Ilado, and the engineer Masangkay, and the wood came from our farm in Negros.
It is a very beautiful kind of wood because it has a reddish quality about it. No longer found anywhere actually. Look how beautiful that is. And to those who've been to our house in Dasmariñas and think that house is beautiful, no, that's nothing compared to how beautiful this house is. This is a small, simple house, but so beautifully done. I think the chandeliers are from Europe, no, Manel? Yeah. And this is a painting that I did when I was 14 of my mom. Yeah, it was inspired by a Gainsborough painting, but this is really her. Yeah. And this painting actually took so many years because I didn't have the patience, and I started it just before I stumbled into theater. And the moment I got into theater, I just didn't have the patience to sit through a painting. Doing paintings is a lonely art form, so I never really did finish it until much later. But look at just the beautiful details of this house. Oh, here's a Juan Luna, which my brother owns. He got it from an auction in Spain, yeah, to our cousin Hope Ledesma, it is old practice from Ilonggo families to paint on their walls, where their wealth came from. And we come from a family of sugar planters, so this is a actual drawing of our farm in Fiameta, which is in Barotac Nuevo. Yeah, now we enter the dining room. Me and my brother were born here, but when I was 6 years old, we were moved to Manila. So we never really lived in this house. I hear that there were many wonderful dinners held here. In fact, President Ramon Magsaysay stayed in this house at one point. And actually, I have the photo. Here it is. This is Ramon Magsaysay with my parents. Yeah, in the house. So let's go back to the dining room. My mother and her sisters were very into collecting wonderful wares, from silverware to glassware. This is our kitchen. Here's an interesting photo of my mom's siblings. She's the one in the middle. Okay. So that's the beautiful.
You're not gonna post that on Facebook, are you?
I am.
BAR is gonna run after us.
This is all old stuff, worthless. Nothing but sentimental value here. This is Sidon, Nonal's son. Say hi.
Hi.
This is our morning room where we spent many wonderful mornings just lounging when you're in between, trying to wake up between sleep and wake. And I already took you to the garden there. And here's another view of the living room, the beautiful living room, and my father's office. Very simply designed, but the details of the architecture are fascinating, really. This is the steps, the stairway going up. There used to be an altar here, and there are many stories. I do remember as a toddler, somehow I have some memories of them praying in this area. And my oldest sister Pasita was saying they first discovered that I had rhythm when they were doing the oracion, and they were, I think, chanting Ora Pro Nobis, and they saw me in the corner dancing to it. And this is a photograph of my parents. This is what I based the painting downstairs on. Yeah. And you have the view of the balcony, which I showed earlier. There are about 4 bedrooms up here. And back to the stairway.